Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I, Engineer Shad Muhammad, lecturer at Department of Civil Engineering, ComStats University, Islamabad, Sahiwal campus, welcome you all to this another interesting lecture. That will be lecture number 14 of the subject Mechanics of Solids 2. Today we will be overviewing some basic concepts of Mechanics of Solids 1 regarding internal forces, stresses and strains. So how internal forces generate and stresses and strains are generated. So basic content of this chapter will be elements, internal forces, normal stresses, normal strains, how to measure normal stresses and strains, elastic behavior of material, failure and allowable limits on stresses, variety of stress strain response, stress strain and shear stresses, shear and bearing stresses in pin joints. Okay, first we will distinguish forces acting on different levels, that is overall system level, then at segment level, and then at element level. Basically, overall analysis are comprised of element level analysis, and we integrate that element level analysis on whole system. It may be a member or whole system. Okay, define two types of forces, stresses and deformation strain at element level. So basically two types of stresses we will be defining, that is normal stresses and shear stresses, internal forces, stresses, normal stresses and shear stresses, and deformation, normal strain and shear strain. Alright, and then we will measure stress and strain in material by loading a test specimen. So this will comprise regarding measurement, and this is how it is going to be measured, and measuring forces applied to specimen ends and element stresses, and this is your specimen and this is your element level strain deformation shown. Alright, chapter outline states that to predict the deformation and failure of the mechanical parts due to applied forces. Okay, you can study this long passage by yourself, and the fourth part is this, that then we will interpret the experimental results and take some meaningful ideas from or values from those results. This is the most essential thing. Basically, three types of properties are important. One is strain and modulus of elasticity, ultimate strength, and yield point. Those are important. Alright, elements. The field of mechanics has led to the development of methods for determining whether a body fails under given loads and how much it deforms. The methods are powerful. They can be applied in the whole range of situations from simple to complex. So mechanics treats deflection and failure for solid parts of any material and shape. So any material and shape can deflect and can fail, and any element of the system can fail. View any body as composed of small elements. So this is whole body, and this part of the body is a smaller part, and this is further comprised of smaller parts, and that is our own supposition that they are composed of grids. We view a body as composed of many small, theoretically infinitesimal cubes of elements. An element is defined as one such cube of material in the body. So mechanics treats a wide range of situations by viewing bodies as collection of small elements. All the bodies are composed of smaller elements. Generally, failure initiates at some local region by the body because condition of those elements become critical. So local failure ultimately governs the global failure of the structure. Maybe your local failure occurs in beam, your local failure occurs in column, and that can cause the global failure of the whole structure, structural collapse, that is global system collapse. Local failure is a regional approach, and that is based on element. And global approach is system failure, and that is based on system overall holistic approach we adopt. Okay, if local regions become critical, they may fail. By contrast, overall deformation of a body is always due to cumulative effects of deformation that occurs in elements throughout a body. Deformation is overall deformation is important, not internal element to element level in deformation. Overall deformation in an element is, or a member is important. So the response of forces is related to what happens in the small element that forms the body. So how the whole element or member will behave, that depends on how its internal small elements behave. Okay, let's differentiate and differ element and member. Every member is composed of infinitesimal elements, and to determine the behavior of overall member, that can be beam, strut, tie, column, cable, whatever the case it may be, that is governed by element level response. To know member level response, you have to determine first element level response. The concept of force and deformation remains relevant. So at element level, force versus deformation remains relevant, and they need to be redefined for small elements in the body. Alright, third point is observe the body deformed shapes of progressively smaller region of the body. This is important, that before determining the overall behavior of the member, you have to determine and observe the behavior at element level, how element is going to deform, and that is how your whole member will deform. Focus on one panel of a vehicle. If the body, it is the body of intersects, okay, different intersects, and picture deformation by etching on the body's surface a grid of equally spaced perpendicular lines to form squares. Equally spaced and perpendicular lines. What should be the size of the grid? That depends on your own element level analysis, and that is subject matter of finite element analysis, that the more refined your grid will be, the more uniform or well defined stresses or strains you will get, and the more rough or coarser grid your that may be coarser grid. By coarser grid I mean that the size of the grid is quite large, the more non-uniform stresses you will get. Okay, picture deformation by etching on the body's surface a grid of equally spaced perpendicular lines to form squares. Okay, you should form squares. If forces are applied to the body, the etched lines moves. You can see this was overall square grid, and these etched lines have moved, deformed. The shape of the square change. You can see square shape has been changed. Whole body under load deforms, always deform. Those deformations are usually so small as to be invisible. So these deformations are mostly not seen by naked eye, because those deformations are too small at element level. Here to help visualize, we exaggerated the deformation. This is an exaggerated picture of deformation. Compare the deformed shape of three progressively smaller, this one, this one, this one, regions. Each side of three squares deforms into a curve. You can see that there is a curvature and curve have been formed. Fourth point, a very small portion of any smooth curve appears to be straight. This is important, that if your curve is very small, then that smaller portion will look like a straight line, like this. That consider any smooth function fx. The plot of fx versus x defines a curve. This is force versus deformation. This defines a curve. If one magnifies a smaller and smaller portion of the curve, this one, keep on magnifying, it appears increasingly like a straight element segment. So the more you refine, or the more you magnify the curve, the straighter the line you get. So a very small portion of the curve into which each side of an etched square deformed appears to be straight. Therefore, the sides of the infinitesimal square remain straight when the body is deformed. So this they appear to be straight, but in reality, if you just join them together element by element and form the whole member and study the whole member behavior, then you will get some deflection and shearing and those type of behaviors. All right. Fifth point states that an infinitesimal element that was originally a square deforms into a parallelogram. A square will deform into a parallelogram. You can see this square, its length have extended, and ratio of these length and change in the angle. This was 90 and now angle have changed, and this is elongated. Two horizontal sides of the infinitesimal square are so close to each other that they deform into lines of same orientation and length. Alright, their ratio may appear same, and the vertical sides likewise deform into lines of same orientation and length. Therefore, the square deforms into a parallelogram. Only three numbers are needed to quantify the shape change from square to parallelogram, that is fractional increase in length, this increase in length of the two sides, and change in right angle, So del x and del y and del gamma are required to study whole behavior of the square. We describe the deformation of any part by the deformation of each of its square elements. So any part deformation in any part can be studied by studying the deformation at element level. Alright, very simple. Two neighboring infinitesimal elements interact with a uniformly distributed forces. Two neighboring infinitesimal elements interact with a uniformly distributed forces. Forces are uniformly distributed, and the two neighboring elements have same loading. Each of the colored square region shown before deforms because the immediately surrounding materials apply forces to it. Imagine gripping the edge of the stretchy sheet of material that is originally square and applying forces to make it deform in the ways shown. Okay, this is a sheet and you are going to stretch it, and you will see that there will be a squeezing effect here, and also shearing, and here is the force deformation distribution on the lower face of the square for the large square which deforms in a complex way. This large square that deforms in a complex way, the distribution of forces is complex. Just as the shape change is simpler for the smaller square, the distribution of force on it is also simpler. If you are studying whole body, then that is quite complex. You have to study element level, and that forces applied on element level will also be simpler. In fact, the force becomes uniformly distributed on the face of each element. So each element on the face of each element, forces are uniformly distributed, and essentially same force acts on neighboring small elements. So we also consider small elements because the description of forces acting on them is simpler. So if you are studying this element, then very simply you can say that these force magnitude is equal and this shearing magnitude is equal. However, if you are studying whole body, then this loading mechanism is quite different than this average forces. Okay, to separate the effects of a part's material and geometry on its deformation, consider it to be composed of smaller elements. It states that if you are going to study whole geometry or part of the material, you have to divide that into smaller elements. Thinking of parts as composed of small elements has another great benefit. When we quantify the tendency for loads to deform the part, we want to separate out the respective effects of the parts, shape, geometry and material. Okay, they can be individually studied, material and geometry. To do this, we need to describe the intrinsic effect of the material of a part, and distinct from its geometry. We do this by considering deformation of the standard size body and an infinitesimal element for which the deformation and the forces are simply described. This lets us compare the responses of different materials on an equivalent basis, always for an infinitesimal element. So very simple. If you want to study anything, that means if you want to study the effect of geometry on material, then you have to fix the material and change the geometry and control unit, and that is control unit should be fixed. If you want to study the effect of material on the geometry, then you want to fix the geometry and to change the material properties. That's it. Alright, internal forces. How internal forces originate. Forces plays a critical role in mechanics of material as it does in statics. Every force represents a mechanical interaction between two bodies. Forces are always in between two bodies when you are dealing with mechanics of solids, because forces are exerted by solids mostly on each other when they are in contact. When we think or draw a force, we should always have two interacting bodies in mind. Two interacting bodies must be in mind. If that is even gravitational force, you must have a visual reality that you should be realizing that there is an connection between those forces, and that is almost roller support. With the exception of the gravity, we are primarily interested in bodies that interact by touching each other. So gravitational force is a force that is not in contact, but spiritually or visually you can suppose that they are in contact with the body and they are at the center or mass center of the body. They are acting at the mass center of the body. In the mechanics of material, we extend the concept of force by considering a greater variety of contacting bodies. Right. First, we apply mechanics of material to structures, machines and mechanisms in which forces at many levels are relevant. So forces at many levels are relevant and interconnected, and this is a complex system. We begin to enlarge the concept of force by reconsidering the vice grip. As the hand squeezes the handle, this one, if the hand squeezes the handle, the forces are exerted between the various parts. The forces are exerted on between the various parts, spring, and this will compress it, and this will also compress it. And in statics, we separate the distinct parts of the system to determine forces between the contacting parts. We separate out we make the free body diagram of any part, and in free body diagrams we display the unknown forces between the distinct parts as well as known forces. So free body diagram consists both known forces and unknown forces. Unknown forces are mostly at the support, and known forces are external loads. Here, for example, we might take the force of the hand F hand to be known. By applying equilibrium on each part, we can determine each of the unknown forces. You can see that F hand, and here you can see this one. There will be a compression and it will resist like this one. And here you can see it is hinge and two reactions over here. And this is normal contact, one reaction. All right, now this part, compression, compression, and here also compression. This one, if you merge this part and this part, you will get no force, so that's okay, equal and opposite. Okay, now this part, F hand, and this F hand will be applied at the center of this mass of our hand, of these fingers. And this one you can see compression, and here is hinge, two reactions. All right, and this one, this part, hinge, two reaction, hinge, two reactions, and this one. One another thing, this spring is missing. They should have included that spring too. Alright, because springs do resist compression and tension sometimes. Third part, mechanics of materials takes the next step. Given the forces on each part determined using statics, we find the forces and deformation in small elements within a part. When forces are given, then you can calculate the material behavior into smaller elements. As just shown, static is often used to determine the forces acting between individual parts. In mechanics of material, we seek to determine if the forces on each part will cause it to fail or deform excessively. To that end, we will find the forces on and deformations of individual elements of the part. We will find it convenient to define forces at an intermediate level, the internal forces between the group of elements that form an internal sources across the part. Self-explanatory paragraph, nothing else. Alright, forces between pairs of elements within a part adds up to a net force across the internal forces. So within a part, and that behavior can be interpolated on larger parts. If we view a body as composed of two adjacent parts that meet at an imaginary plane or line passing through the body, then internal forces, moments, is defined as the force or moment exerted by the two adjacent parts on each other. So this is the whole body, and we have decomposed it into two segments, and their smaller parts are exerting forces on each other, and they are equal and opposite, but each sub-element is in equilibrium. Whole body is in equilibrium, each sub-element is in equilibrium. So this force will be resisted by the internal stresses, and those stresses might not be uniform across the area, but they can also be calculated or converted into forces. So force equilibrium and force versus stresses equilibrium, both are same things and very easily calculated. Say the forces on link similar to BD, and but in tension have to be determined. Consider next the forces exerted between the two portions of the link that are separated by the plane that cut across the link, and on each side of the plane there are individual elements. On each side of the plane there are individual elements. The individual elements exert force on each other. They exert force on each other. We add up the forces across all elements at the interface. This one at the interface, we add them, and that will be equal to this one. We define internal force P. If you add them, then that is equal to internal force P as the net or resultant force transmitted between two adjacent portions of the body over all elements of the separating cross section. This one. All right. Find the force on an internal surface first. You have to find the force, and then determine the force acting between individual elements that add up to the force. You have to find first internal forces on element or that plane. While the force across the internal surface is the resultant of the forces on the individual part and self-explanatory, you can study that. And element forces across an internal surface adds up in general to a net force and moment. Okay, you can see that here is some normal force and some hinge forces at a hinge, and then there can be a moment effect also, and some vertical or vertical and horizontal forces too. So this can be converted into moment effect, and also in horizontal and vertical forces. The force acting between the elements at an internal surface are statically equivalent to the single force in some direction plus a couple or moment. Single force and plus or couple or moment. These internal loads or forces can be found by applying equilibrium on the portion of the body bonded by the internal forces. So distribution of the forces on elements at the internal surface and statically equivalent internal force and moment. In the next section we define element level forces, stresses, and go on to learn how element level forces are found from the internal loads. End of 2.2. Alright, now let's solve example number problem 2.1. A set of planks forms a temporary floor. This one, a plank, and this is a temporary floor. Each plank is supported by a cable and a rest on the pad. There are different planks and they are resting on the pad and they are supported by the cable. Consider loads induced in the cable and the pad due to an additional load of F naught 40 pound applied on the as shown. So this may be a labor and he is walking on this plank, and do not include the weight of the plank. Self weight should be ignored, means effect of gravity should be ignored on this plank, and determine the internal loads at the two cross sections S1 and S2, section 1 and section 2. Section 1 is within the cable and section 2 is within the pad. Draw free body diagrams and use the conditions of equilibrium. Take the force transmitted between the pad and the plank to be uniformly distributed. So the forces between the plank and the pad should be uniformly distributed. Okay, how you are going to find the section forces? First you have to find how many unknowns are there. This is the pad on which it is lying, and this is vertical one reaction, and another reaction, and another reaction, three reactions, and you have three equations. So very easily you can find here it is one unknown and here is another unknown, and that's up to you that which direction you give to these unknowns. So this is your free body diagram of this plank, and simply you are going to find F naught is known and these are unknowns. So moment about point A or moment about point B, and you have to give the direction. So summation of moment about point A. So this clockwise moment he has taken as negative, so minus 400 into 18 inch plus FB multiplied by 30 plus 18 inch, and you will get find B is equal to 150 pound, and Fy, summation of Fy, now this is unknown, you have to find, this is known and this is known, you have to add them, and summation of Fy, you have to suppose the direction that either upward is positive or downward is positive, and that will solve that A is equal to 250. Answer is positive, and it states that your direction, assumed direction, is fine, this AY. Another thing is this, that you can look over the magnitude, that it was almost 400 pounds, and you just add them together, 50, and this is 400 pounds. So forces are in equilibrium. So how much your force is a fundamental concept of structures is this, that how much force is applied, that much should be the bearing capacity of the soil or the structure itself. Okay, you have found this one. Now this force in a cable is known. So using equilibrium, you can find this one supported this one, and also reaction at B is known, so you can find the section force at S2. So this is your cable. 250 was this one, and now it should be opposite in direction, and 150 was this one, and now it should be opposite in direction. So these are the forces on the elements, and if you just take the section, so this is external force at support, and this is internal force, and that will be equal in equilibrium. So their magnitude will be 252. And this one, if you want to take the section, and forces will be equal. So very simple, the two sides of the cable pulls on each other across the internal cross section, so it is in tension. The two sides of the pad pushes on each other internal, and that is compression. So this is extending and this is compressing. So cables only resist extension, and pads only resist compression. Another very interesting concept in this support, you can observe the support conditions. No matter, you need not to provide any columns or those things. With the help of cables or strings or tendons, you can bear the load. So very good concept. Alright, let's move to problem number 2.2. What you are going to see is this, that a retractable ladder, it can be moved up and down, supported by two arms. These are two arms, and a cable in the positions shown. These are the cables, and with the help of this cable you can retract this ladder, and two people who have total mass of 200 kg step on the ladder. 200 kg mass is stepping on the ladder. Determine the internal load in the arm. Internal load in the arm you have to find. We have the total mass in the arm at the section S. At this section you have to find the forces. Assume the ladder is centered between two arms. So ladder is centered at between the two arms, and the pin, and that the pins that the arms pivot about exerts only force on the arm. Alright, very simple. These are the cables and forces being exerted, and you have to find the force over here. So equal arms, and you can take it a planar element. This is a solid 3D element. So very simply, by assuming it plane, just looking from the front view, this is a hinge and this is a cable, so it will only exert axial force. So this is axial forces exerted by the cable, and this is your ladder weight of the person, and these are the distances. So it's very simply, you have to resolve this and find the theta. Theta is very simply, you can find it by through proper base. Perpendicular is given and base is also given. You can find the theta. and all other system is simple. So this is how you are going to find the theta. 600 is the base of this triangle and 500 is its height. Tangent inverse this one. So you have found that theta is 39.8 degree, 39.8 degree, and this is known, and this you are going to find, and this you are going to find. So moment about point A you want to take, and you will find you will be able to find this one. Okay, when you find this one, then you are going to use summation of fy is equal to 0, you will find fy, and then summation of fx is equal to 0, you will find fx. So moment summation of moment about A, and summation of fx, and summation of fy. Okay, when you have found this, you can see that directions, ay direction is wrong, it should be downwards. Okay, so this is your original body. Now this is downward, and fx is positive. Our assumed direction was this one, so this one, and at this section we want to find the forces. So you can see that this is in positive x direction, so fx should be in negative x direction, and magnitude should be 2750 Newton, and similarly fy, and it should be equal to 1308, and direction should be opposite to this one. And another thing that this force is also applying a moment, because it has a moment arm. So 13808 multiplied by moment arm, so moment will also exist in this section. So if you just calculate the values, you will get this one. This will be your moment, because 1308 multiplied by this one, and you have to convert it into meters. So Newton meter is moment, and this one. So if these forces are exerted on this area, so another section will be equal and opposite, and you can see that moment direction has changed, force direction has changed, and fy direction and fx direction both have changed. So if you just join them together, there is no force existing. So that's it for today's lecture, and we solved 2 examples, and we defined the concept at internal forces at element level. So these are some general problems. You can solve them at your home, and just take it as a home assignment. Very interesting practical examples. So that's it for today. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.